Good evening and thanks for tuning in to Double Trouble on CTV Sports. I'm Grace Reeder.
And I'm Rachel Vihel, and we have a loaded show for you. Thanks for being here.
The CSU football team went to Tuscaloosa this week to take on number 1 ranked Alabama.
Final score, 41-23, but I think the Rams looked a lot better than a lot of people were expecting, despite the score. Grace, what did you think?
You know, we were kind of hating last week when we were talking about this game. I think the first quarter was exactly what I was expecting. Alabama was just running over CSU. However, in that second quarter, I was pretty impressed, and I'm usually not someone to gloat about Nick Stevens, but I think Nick Stevens showed some leadership in that second quarter, pulling the Rams within 7 points. I'm impressed by that. He also had 109 yards in that second quarter alone, not to mention he had 26 rushing yards in this game. So if you're rushing against the Alabama defense as a quarterback, 26 yards, I'll take it. He had a good game.
He did. Honestly, I'll give it to him, but the only thing that I think he really messed up on was his 2 interceptions.
The interceptions were bad.
But you could just tell he was really trying to force it into to the wide receiver's hands, and unfortunately it just backfired on him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But you did talk a little bit about the rushing yards, and I think Dalen Dawkins and the running game had a great game. I think Dawkins had a little bit of momentum going forward, and I mean, he's a small guy. I'm not going to bash on him, but he's a smaller guy, and he was just going over those D linemen and those DBs too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dalen Dawkins did what he does best, which is not to try and be fancy with it, but if he's going to get small yards, that's fine with him. He just pushes and pushes, and I think that's why Dalen Dawkins is so successful even against a defense like that. But I was actually really impressed with Michael Gallup as well, 81 yards for him. If you're going to play well, you want to play well against this team, especially when you've got some scouts looking at you.
He did. He had a couple NFL scouts there, which was huge, and his family was there too. But
good for him.
Yeah, I know, but I do think that his touchdown should have been a touchdown. I think he had his control of the ball, and he also had his foot down. But again, I'm not a ref.
We're no refs, I guess, but it did give the true freshman a chance to make a scoring play, which good for him.
It did. Warren Jackson had 2 touchdowns in the game. True freshman.
Game of his life.
I know. I would not complain about getting my first touchdown against Alabama.
Absolutely. He played outstanding. They were not small touchdowns either.
No.
They weren't easy. They were hard-earned.
They should have been SportsCenter top 10 for sure.
I liked them.
But CSU did score the most points on Alabama all season, so I will give that for a Mountain West team. I will definitely take it.
Go Rams.
But head coach Mike Bobo didn't hold his press conference this week due to the bye, but he did have some words after the Bama game.
Really proud of our football team for the effort that they gave tonight. I thought we started the game slow. I thought the mystique of playing Alabama and who we were playing, we were on our heels, and that's something that we gotta correct. It's 2 games now, and 2 big games. CU and Alabama, we start off slow, a little bit hesitant on both sides of the ball. I don't know why. We got to figure that out, and then we calmed down and we played.
Well, up next, CSU heads to Hawaii after their bye week. Rachel, what do you expect the Rams are going to be working on these 2 weeks?
You know, I think they're just going to work on their game plan and continuing to get tougher mentally and physically. The players get to go home this weekend, too, which would be nice since they don't get to go home all summer. But I do just think they're going to continue to work on their game plan.
Yeah, well, hopefully they rest up. I think it's going to be a good game because both teams have had some pretty significant losses early on in the season. Obviously, CSU is coming off of that Bama loss and the CU loss, which wasn't a blowout, but that was a pretty tough game to lose. And Hawaii just took a pretty brutal loss from UCLA. They go and play Wyoming, so they will not be as rested as CSU. But I still think it'll be a good game with some tough losses behind them.
Oh, I definitely agree with you, but I think going and playing Wyoming is going to make Hawaii a little bit tired. And they have to travel a lot.
Yeah, they do.
You have to give it to Hawaii. They do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
I honestly kind of feel bad for them, but I know the CSU guys are very excited to go out to Hawaii.
I'm sure they're ready to go to Hawaii. I wish we were going. Well, the CSU women's volleyball team hosted a tournament this weekend. On Friday, the Rams played Albany, handing them an easy 3-set sweep. Albany couldn't contest with the Rams' fast-paced offense and lost all 3 sets by double digits. On Saturday, the Rams had a doubleheader, first facing off Xavier, who started the first set really slow, losing 10-25. Xavier began to find their rhythm but in the second and third set, but it wasn't enough, and the Rams took the sweep. Saturday night, however, was a different story. The Rams faced off against a very talented CU volleyball team. The Rams took the first set in what seemed like it would be another easy sweep. During the second set, CU fought back, but CSU came back from a deficit at the end to pull off an outstanding second set. It was all downhill from there for the Rams, though, who couldn't hold off the Buffs' strong attack. CU took CSU to 5 sets, where they would hand CSU an easy 15-8 loss in the last set to take it all. CSU will still be a heavy contender in the Mountain West Conference play, which kicks off on Thursday against the New Mexico Lobos. Rachel, how do you see this CSU team's volleyball season kind of kicking off and rolling out against Mountain West?
You know, honestly, the CSU team is very good. I don't think people give them enough credit. They only have 2 losses, and that was against Duke and Colorado, so they're a very good team.
Yep.
I just don't think people give him enough credit.
You know, Tom Hilbert has 13 Mountain West titles. You can't take any of the credit away from Tom Hilbert, and he has those titles for a reason. I do think that the Rams need to quicken their play, and I think with the players that they lost in this past season, I certainly think the Rams will also need to spend a little bit of time working on leadership as well.
You know, they're a very young team. They have a lot of sophomores on their team, and it takes a little bit of time to develop that team. I mean, Tom Hilbert is very good at creating a great team, but they are still young.
And the season's early. I don't think they're going to have any chance against Mountain West, opponents. We are just spoiled with some very talented CSU volleyball players.
Yeah, we are. And I mean, they're
year.
still ranked 23rd.
Yep.
I mean, they're still top
great.
25, and CU just moved up to 25th.
Yep.
So, I mean, we got to give it to them.
They deserved it. They played really well.
Yeah, they're definitely a good team. The CSU women's soccer team was at Kansas State this week, where they were handed a 3-2 loss in overtime. Kansas State held onto the ball for most of the game, outshooting the Rams 21-13. This was a heated game. 2 yellow cards were handed out, one to Callie Lordman and one to Kansas State's Tatum Wagner. CSU soccer heads to Air Force on Friday to take on the 3-4 Falcons.
The CSU men's cross country team continues to be highly dominant this season. Last week, the team was ranked 18th in the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association NCAA Division I Men's Cross Country National Coaches Poll. That is not an easy poll to say, let me tell you. This is their highest preseason ranking since 2002, where the Rams were ranked 16th. The team next heads to Minnesota for the Roy Griek Invitational on Saturday. Gerald Mock was runner-up at this race in 2015 and came in first last year. Heading into his senior year, we expect big things from Mock and the very talented cross-country team.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Tim's Call. I am your host, Tim McCall, here to keep you updated with the world of sports. To start, Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott has played the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, and it looks as though he's going to continue to play for the foreseeable future. Elliott was suspended 6 games by the NFL due to domestic violence allegations from his former girlfriend. However, he has appealed that suspension. A court ruling last week put the appeal trial on hold, which allowed Elliott to play the previous 2 weeks. The NFL has fought this court ruling and filed a motion for an emergency stay on the case. This morning, that emergency stay was denied by a judge, meaning that it will likely be months until the Ezekiel Elliott appeals trial moves forward. Since Elliott will be eligible to play until a ruling is reached, it's looking more and more likely that he will be eligible to play every game of this NFL season. The NFL will likely attempt to speed up the appeals process. However, today's ruling likely means that a decision will not be made in court until after the NFL season. Expect Ezekiel Elliott to be on the field for the Dallas Cowboys for the foreseeable future. In other news surrounding the Dallas Cowboys, owner Jerry Jones is currently disrupting contract negotiations aimed at extending NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Goodell's current contract runs through 2019, and it was a common belief among NFL owners that a new contract for Roger Goodell would already be in place. ESPN has even reported that if it wasn't for Jerry Jones, a deal would already be in place for the commissioner right now. Although no details of the newly proposed contract have been released, there's been speculations that Jerry Jones is not happy with the financial details surrounding Roger Goodell's new deal. Going forward, we're going to have to see whether Jerry Jones alone, or other owners in addition, are against Roger Goodell being paid too much. Don't expect Roger Goodell to sign a new contract extension anytime soon. The contract talks will most likely remain quiet until the season ends. In other NFL news, free agent quarterback Colin Kaepernick is apparently on the radar of some Cincinnati Bengals players. After starting the season 2-0 and failing to score a touchdown in either of their first 2 games, some members of the Bengals are calling for quarterback Andy Dalton to be benched and replaced with Colin Kaepernick. With the San Francisco 49ers last season, Kaepernick made headlines for kneeling during the national anthem as a form of protesting racial tension within the country. While many others around the NFL have joined Kaepernick in protesting, he still remains the face of this movement. Although players on the Bengals endorse Kaepernick, there has yet to be any indication that the Bengals front office is interested in signing him. With Andy Dalton owed $13 million this season and under contract through 2020, it doesn't appear that the Bengals will be interested in moving on from him. While the rumor mill will continue to link Colin Kaepernick's name with teams around the NFL, it doesn't appear that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be signing Colin Kaepernick anytime soon. Hello, Rams, and welcome back from the break. I am Tim McCall with CTV News, and we're bringing you the FOCO Sports Show, where we are about to be joined by some colleagues with Rocky Mountain Student Media who are going to discuss and debate sports. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
First off, I'm Javon Harris. I'm from the Rocky Mountain Collegian.
I'm Eddie Hers. I'm from the Rocky Mountain Collegian as well.
I'm Nick Baker. I'm from KCSU Radio.
I'm Nick Romero. I'm with CTV.
I'm Brian Buck from KCSU as well.
Now, while we did have a lot of action in this week going forward with NFL, we had CSU and Bama. We're going to start off with maybe the biggest sporting event from this week, and that was the Triple G Canelo fight. Now, I know many of you guys here are more interested and more excited to talk about football, but Nick Romero over here with CTV News is our boxing expert on the show, and he's going to tell us all about this fight. Nick, what do you got for us?
Yeah, Tim, this fight was, just to get me started, this thing was absolutely amazing. If you were a fan of the McGregor-Mayweather fight, then you would have absolutely loved Canelo Triple G. Both these guys coming in, Canelo was 49-1, and his only loss was to Floyd Mayweather, which, as we all know, being one of the greatest fighters in the fight game today, just kind of an outlier. You can't really count that one. And then Triple G was 33, I want to believe 33-0 in his record right now. So both these guys are basically undefeated going into this super middleweight fight. It was just absolutely incredible. So to start off, Triple G is 35. His opponent Canelo was 27, much younger, much hungrier fighter going into the fight. Both these guys are massive heavy hitters. And it was just, they took it to each other, like, pretty hard.
Now, for those who didn't see the fight, it wound up being a fantastic fight, so good that they couldn't decide a winner. It ended up being a draw. Nick, as a boxing fan, what does it mean when a draw happens? Are you happy as a fan, or are you upset?
With big fights like tonight, or what happened on Saturday, I don't believe in a draw at all. I believe that these two fighters just came in and trained so hard for that fight that a draw is just absolutely out of the question. And for Triple G, this was him defending his middleweight title for the 20th time. So he's going in, and then with Canelo coming up to challenge such a crazy fighter like Triple G, it's just kind of disappointing to see the way it worked out. And the way it did work out was two of the judges had him pretty close. It was like 15-15, and then it was 14, and I want to say 17 was the score. But
so even though it was a really close fight, Triple G wound up landing, I think it was 54 more punches throughout the fight. Now, he didn't have quite as high of a strike percentage as Canelo Alvarez, but either way you cut it, it was a really close fight. Hopefully, because it was a draw, it means that we're going to be looking at a rematch. I can't wait for it as a boxing fan, and just as a sports fan, it's cool to see these kind of events come along. They don't come along too often, so I can't wait for the next one. But we're going to move forward. We're going to talk about NFL, exactly what you guys have been wanting to talk about all day. We're going to talk about Week 2. It was yesterday. We got the current Monday Night Football, Giants and Lions going on right now. But just talking about yesterday, everything we already saw, what'd you guys think? What were your takeaways from Week 2 in the NFL?
Well, a couple of takeaways that I had was I was really impressed with the Broncos defense. Like, of course, we know that they've been good for a numerous amount of years, but, I mean, they made the Cowboys look like the Cowgirls, to be honest with you. And I thought they'd like two interceptions, one to the house, one to lead. That was in the game.
Late at the game?
Icing on the cake. 2 sacks by Von Miller. Yeah, it was late in the game, but still. And then I also think Ezekiel Elliott, he just quit.
Hey, how about a career low in rushing for Ezekiel Elliott?
He was eating like one Cheerio. He wasn't eating like they usually eat. So, yeah, that was just horrible. I also think that the Falcons, they looked really good. I think they looked really good. The Packers are really good. So I thought the Falcons looked really good. Their offense looked insane, again, with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Devontae Freeman with 2 touchdowns. That was pretty good. And I just want to put out there the Chargers. They might have the worst luck in the NFL.
You know, that new kicker, it didn't work in Denver. It didn't work this past week.
Exactly.
I hope that it starts working for the kid soon, or else he's not going to be in the NFL much longer.
Anymore, but yeah, the last one I was just putting it out there. Marshawn Lynch looked like he was having a grand old time in Oakland. So
I think Oakland's happy to have him back.
Exactly.
Eddie, what do you think?
I want to talk about the rookies so far this season, which has really been an exciting aspect to 2 weeks of the season so far. I mean, we all know about Kareem Hunt and what he's done, but I want to talk about Tariq Cohen on the Bears, the 5'6" Darren Sproles-esque back, drafted 4th round of North Carolina A&T. Excuse me. There's not really any hype surrounding him going into the year, not even from Bears fans, and that's because Jordan Howard, 1,600 all-purpose yards last season, an incredible rookie campaign, 7 touchdowns on the ground. So you're not even thinking Tariq Cohen's going to do anything. But instead, through two games, Cohen's had 12 carries, 79 yards. Howard has had 10 more carries, 22, and only 59 yards. Cohen is making way more of his carries, and when it comes to receiving, it's not even a discussion. I mean, Howard has 3 receptions, 14 yards. Cohen has 16 for 102. He's leading the Bears in receiving. I'm fantasy owners. I'm talking to you. This guy's available in 45.3% of fantasy leagues. I know I picked him up. There could be a little question because you think, well, Howard will get it going eventually. He's had a slow start. In most cases, this will probably hurt Cohen's production. I don't think it will. The Bears only have a few offensive weapons. Cohen's going to have a chance to really do what he can every week because of that. He even muffed a punt, made a bad play, and he wasn't even pulled. His production didn't even decrease after that. There's no short leash with how few options there are in that offense.
Yeah, John Fox has a lot of confidence in him. He went right back to him after he fumbled. A lot of people forget this is a Bears team that had Victor Cruz, who was going to be working the slot going into the last week of training camp, and right before the season started, they released him because John Fox knew that he had a guy that he was going to be able to rely on in the receiving game in the slot. That guy happens to be Tariq Cohen.
Right, and I agree. I would compare it to the Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman little combo there is in Atlanta. Both get carries, both get receptions. I think the Bears have their own version of that going right now.
All right, and Nick Baker, you want to tell us what you got?
Yeah, I'm going to take it to the NFC South, someone that I'm really excited about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kind of a shaky start, Doug Martin being suspended, the issues with weather and losing their first game. But going in to play the Bears, they didn't have a lot to play for, and they really proved it, that they're a great team. They were on Hard Knocks and got a lot of people on their side, and that defense was phenomenal. Very excited about that. I think the NFC South's one of the best divisions out there right now. The Saints are the worst of the bunch, and that offense can hurt anyone on any day. The Panthers have a great defense, shaky offense, and of course the Falcons are the Falcons. Really excited for that, and they looked phenomenal last night.
I would have to agree, especially with the Panthers. They were looking solid. But going into next week, no Greg Olsen. We still have not seen too much out of the rookie Christian McCaffrey. Had a couple carries, but not at all what we've really hoped to see out of the young kid this season. But on that note, I'm going to take it to the AFC West, home of my favorite team, the Broncos. But I just want to call this division like the most competitive division in all the NFL right now. Right now, all the teams are leveling up. The Broncos are looking fantastic. Trevor Siemian's coming in with an amazing start. We have the Raiders doing great. Derek Carr just threw for 3 TD passes, 3 or 4, 3 of which at least to Crabtree the other day, and then Marshawn Lynch. Like what he said, he's Marshawn Lynch.
And as we just mentioned, the Chargers, who are the worst team in this division, are 2 plays, a kick at the end of the game each week away from being undefeated. Yeah, exactly. They could very well be the best team in the division. Exactly. We just don't know it yet.
Unfortunately, they just find a way to lose.
Unfortunately for you Broncos.
Unfortunately,
it's still a Rivers, but
when you only have 25,000 people in the seats, it's not that hard to win a football game. Yeah, I know. I like what both of you guys said about best divisions. The AFC West looking great, the NFC South looking great, and it brings me to kind of a conference matchup. The NFC looked terrible in the past 2 weeks. You talk about Green Bay, Seattle, they went up against each other week 1. That was not the football game anybody expected it to be. Seattle did not look great against the 49ers, and Green Bay gets almost embarrassed in Atlanta. We start talking about an NFC that looks really shallow, aside from, as you mentioned, Nick, the optimism in the NFC South with Tampa and Carolina and Atlanta. There really isn't a Super Bowl contending team in the NFC right now, at least how they play out. I see it a couple ways. It's just incomplete football teams right now. We talk about Seattle. They don't have an offensive line. They have a collegiate offensive line right now. You talk about Green Bay, who fields a guy who wears a wide receiver number at the running back position. Yeah, he's talented, and he can make plays, but he's not a guy that was built or has trained to carry the ball 20 to 25 times a game. He's never studied pass protection in his career. He doesn't understand running back routes and running back angles the way that a normal running back would. And when you're a pass-first offense, you have to be able to run the ball to take some pressure off of you. And they couldn't do that against Atlanta. That's a huge problem for them. And after that, there's no answer. On the flip side, you see the AFC, there are a lot of complete football teams. The Baltimore Ravens is the first team that really jumps out at me. It's just a great example of a team that has all the right pieces. A lot of us were saying, they're not quite good enough this year. But they've had 2 really solid wins, and they've just looked good. The AFC West, another division. Tim, like you said, the Chargers might be 0-2, but they're 2 plays away from being undefeated. Everybody else in the division is undefeated. You know, all these different teams in the AFC just look so solid. The NFC, not at all. I think right now, if you wanted to make a bet, you could easily say that the AFC is going to win the Super Bowl this year, and I wouldn't second guess you whatsoever. So we need to see some growth out of the NFC. We need to see those teams do a little bit better with that.
No, we're going to go ahead and move on to our last topic. We're going to talk about the Broncos and Trevor Siemian. Now, he played great yesterday, threw for 4 touchdowns, and now he has the most touchdown passes of anyone in the NFL. Is he the right guy going forward for the Broncos?
Well, I wasn't a big fan of Trevor Siemian. I was never sold on him. I'm still not a big fan, but I was very impressed, and I do believe he's the guy going forward. He looked really. He picked apart the Cowboy defense.
I know. He was great.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any naysayers in the group? Anybody who wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid?
I mean, I'm going to have to somewhat agree with Javon. I think he's the guy moving forward, per se. I don't think he can lead them to a Super Bowl. But, I mean, he's pleasantly surprised me. I mean, that's only the 2nd game in his career that he's thrown 4 touchdowns. He's thrown 6 touchdowns already this season. Took him 5 games to do that last year. 6th highest QBR in the NFL right now. What all of this tells me is Siemian is improving. He's improving more than I thought he would be able to, and he's leading a team, something I thought he wouldn't be able to do. I mean, against the Cowboys on a big stage, he led his team. That's one of the biggest games of his career, and he literally put the Broncos on his back. I'm impressed.
I think lead is the perfect word. Yeah. That's all he needs to do. That's all he is doing.
Going into next week, I'm just intrigued to see what's going to happen without Garrett Bowles anchoring the offensive line. He's got bone bruise in his leg, so we're going to see what Trevor can do without that protection.
He could be back next week.
And Ronald Leary, and Trevor Siemian's a quarterback who has to have that protection. He's a game manager. He has to be in the pocket.
All right, guys, I don't mean to slow us down. We're having some great conversation, but we are going to cut it off. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching the FOCO Sports Show. I'm Tim McCall. Have a great night, guys.
Obviously, we're the favorite in this, but I thought that we kept our mistakes down. We did not drop our level of play. We served and passed very well. Their one kid, number 34, is a very good player, and she got some kills, but we were able to block her and disrupt her a little bit, which is important. And we played great in our out-of-system game, too. So we're doing a lot of good things that are helping, and it's helping us become a better volleyball team.
The Colorado State football team had a decent run against the #1 football team in the SEC, Alabama. CSU lost 41-23 on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. The Rams had 391 yards of total offense and Alabama had 487. QB Nick Stevens had a great game as he threw for 247 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stevens also had 2 interceptions. The game was off to a slow start there in the first quarter as the Rams trailed 14-0, but that was what most people expected. True freshman Warren Jackson was able to get his first career touchdown before the end of the half, which I'm sure he was very excited to have his first touchdown against Alabama. In the opening of the second half, CSU turned over the ball and Alabama took advantage of that. Alabama was able to score 2 touchdowns, bringing the score 38-10 late in the fourth quarter. Jackson caught a 3-yard pass from Stevens in the end zone, bringing the final score to 41-23. The Colorado State's 23 points were the most scored by a non-Power 5 team against Alabama since 2007. Now the Rams have a nice break this week before they head into Mountain West Conference play at Hawaii on September 30th. The Colorado State volleyball team had another great weekend in the second CSU tournament. The team walked away with two sweeps and a loss. The first 2 sweeps were against Albany and Xavier. The big loss was against Colorado on Saturday night, who is currently ranked 25th. Roughly 4,700 Ram fans came to support the team, but CSU fell 3-2. Sonia Cheesemick was a key player in the game as she had 16 kills and 3 blocks. Brianna Reynolds and Jasmine Hanna also added 13 and 12 kills respectively. The Rams won the first 2 sets, but CSU's defense was able to put a stop to the Rams. The Rams held the third set all the way to 21-20, but the Buffs went on a 5-1 scoring run, and there was no coming back for the Rams. The Rams were clearly struggling there in that last 2 sets as they fell to a .200 hitting percentage. The Rams went 10-2 in the preseason and will begin conference play this Thursday against New Mexico at 7 p.m. in Moby Arena. The Colorado State soccer team fell 3-2 against Kansas State in extra time on Sunday. K-State was able to score 2 goals in the first 31 minutes of the game, but those were the only goals they were able to get for the rest of regulation. CSU's Beth Plentel took a penalty kick for the Rams and beat the keeper to the lower left. This brought the score to 2-1, and the Rams continued to fight in the second half. And Hannah Gurdon passed the ball to Maddie Rodriguez, and she fired a shot, bringing the score to a tie. In the 95th minute, K-State's Brooklyn Entz got the third and final goal of the game. The Rams will open up conference play this Friday at Air Force at 7 p.m.
Welcome back. I'm Tyler Patterson, here to catch you up on all the latest in Colorado State athletics. CSU football suited up against the top team in the nation on Saturday and actually kept the final score respectable. The Alabama Crimson Tide were favored by 4 touchdowns in Saturday's matchup against CSU, although the Rams kept it much closer than most assumed. CSU started off slow, posting just 11 yards of offense in the first quarter, which put them behind 14-0. However, the offense would respond in the second quarter with a field goal conversion and a touchdown grab by freshman wide receiver Warren Jackson. The 10-point second quarter for the Rams put CSU down just 17-10. Alabama would quickly respond, though, with a touchdown right before half that stretched the lead back to 24-10. CSU struggled mightily again on offense during the start of the third quarter, which let Alabama extend their lead to 38-10. The Rams would squeeze in a couple late touchdowns, but the Tide would eventually roll to a 41-23 victory. Colorado State is on a bye this weekend and will have time to regroup before conference play begins Saturday, September 30th against the University of Hawaii. Women's volleyball hosted its final non-conference tournament this weekend and produced 2 3-set sweeps against Albany and Xavier. The Rams were unable to go undefeated again this weekend after collapsing against in-state rival CU in the 5th set on Saturday night. CSU finished out their non-conference schedule with a record of 10-2 and earned themselves an overall ranking of 23rd in the nation. The Rams open up conference play tonight at home against the New Mexico Lobos. Women's soccer traveled to Kansas State this Sunday where they took on the Wildcats in what turned out to be another overtime thriller. This is the 4th time this season that the Rams have needed overtime to decide a match. Maddie Rodriguez tied the game up for CSU in the 65th minute, and it would remain tied until K-State's own Brooklyn Entz scored the game winner for the Wildcats in the 94th minute. The OT loss moves the Rams' record to 2-4-2 on the season. CSU will begin conference play tomorrow, 7 p.m. at Air Force. That's all the sports I have for tonight. For all the latest, head to thecollegian.com or CTV's Channel 11 YouTube. I'm Tyler Patterson. Up next is Ryan Chris with entertainment.